All right, with that, let's bring on our next guest, former CIA director, former congressman, former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo is with us. Mr. Secretary, during your time as the Secretary of State and the CIA director, did you come across anything that you'd be able to tell us as it relates to alien objects flying above the United States or Mother Earth? Anything you've ever heard of? Because I've not ever had confirmation of it.
Well, Sean, if you talk about aliens and extraterrestrials, I couldn't see a darn thing about that. As for the balloon, the administration actually provided a briefing to me late this afternoon on some of the details, and there's a lot of cleaning up to do. We know there was the balloon that transited the continental United States. We know that the Biden administration now knew about this early on and chose not to take it down before it began its collection effort over the United States. The Chinese are squawking, saying it was a weather balloon. We know it wasn't a weather balloon, and we know that they had the capacity to control the places that it went. That is, I've also heard the Biden administration say, well, it was kind of just drifting. That's not fundamentally true. They were able to maneuver this with some specificity. Last thing, I've heard even some Republicans say, well, goodness, they have satellites. What could these balloons possibly do? These are different tools. As the CIA director, I can assure you, you want many views, many possibilities. You want sound, you want imagery, you want all of those things. And a low-flying balloon over our military installations is a significant, not an insignificant event in the United States of America.
I don't know what's worse, Mr. Secretary. One, the fact that they are now claiming something they didn't claim last week, that they knew when this spy balloon took off. Then they allowed it to fly over Alaskan airspace, down the coast of western Canada, into Idaho, over to Montana, over our ICBM missile sites, into Kansas, a state you know well, and Missouri and Kentucky and the Carolinas, all the way out the East Coast. I don't know if that's worse, that they waited that long, or two, that they shot 3 objects out of the air using our military, but they have no idea what they shot at or shot down. Can you explain that?
Yeah, equally troubling in different ways. You're right. They flew over Kansas, a place where they could almost certainly see Fort Leavenworth, likely Fort Riley, Kansas as well. Some of our other important military institutions sit under the direct path that the Chinese Communist Party intentionally flew their balloon over, while this administration sat there and just watched this happen. To your point about the other 3 objects, I don't know much more than has been revealed publicly about what they were. I'm sure they had figured out at some point that there weren't human beings aboard these. But we need answers about what they were doing. This is out of pattern, right? I don't know of any other time that the United States has shot down unidentified objects over its own territory. This is a big deal,
well,
not something that President Biden can slough off and say, oh, nothing to see here.
They shot the 3 down. They don't know what they shot, and they said, but we're pretty sure it's not from China. Can you explain where that rationale came from?
I can't, other than if you connect that up to what they've said about the fact that they knew that this original balloon actually did come from China. Maybe they think because they weren't able to detect that they don't think that's where this came from. But I don't know the answer to that, Sean. But, you know, Sean, we should back up just a minute. This is, to your point in your opening remarks, this is important. This is part of a collective action. So the balloons are a strand of or a thread of a cloth of the Chinese Communist Party espionage operations against the United States. And this administration simply refuses to take this threat seriously. Instead, is passive and appeases the Chinese Communist Party in ways that make no sense for the American people. So whether it's this balloon or, as you said, with the virus or TikTok or all the other tools that the Chinese are using against the American people, destroying millions of our jobs, this administration has declined to do anything that's going to protect the American people. We had flipped the script for 4 years, and when the Biden administration came back in, they went right back to the engagement model that hasn't served our country well.
Well, one then has to ask the question, could it be because they have such strong business ties with the Biden family, which I think America now needs real serious answers to? Secretary Pompeo, as always, thank you for being with us.